Okay, in this video we're going to be looking at how to work out the cosine, sine, and the tangent of angles that are more than acute, so larger than 90 degrees or less than 0 degrees. And the first question we have for today is, what is the cosine of 135 degrees? The first thing we need to recognize is which quadrant is our angle inside. And for those of you that have forgotten, our quadrants are numbered: first quadrant here, second quadrant here, third quadrant here, and fourth quadrant here. The second thing we need to recognize is this is where we measure our angles from. Every single angle is measured in an anti-clockwise direction from the positive x-axis. So if I were to draw this out, we can recognize 135 degrees is over here. Okay, this is the angle 135 degrees. Next, we need to recognize what is the reference angle for 135 degrees. The reference angle is the angle that this line makes with the x-axis. More specifically, it is the acute angle. So the acute angle that we can see here is this one right here. And that acute angle would be 45 degrees because it's simply just 180 take away 135 degrees. Now we need to see that cosine 135 degrees and cosine 45 degrees are virtually the same thing because the reference angle is what we use to work out cosine 135 degrees. Okay, but we also need to recognize that the value of sine, cosine, and tangent are positive or negative depending on the quadrant they are in. And because it's nice to remember, we need to memorize this quadrant diagram. A, S, T, C. Add sugar to coffee. And what this stands for is all of them, sine, cosine, and tangent, are positive in this quadrant, in the first quadrant. So the sine, the cosine, and the tangent of any angle between 0 and 90 will always be positive. In the second quadrant, S stands for sine. Only the sine of any angle between 90 and 180 degrees will be positive. The cosine and the tangent of any angle will simply be negative. The third quadrant is the tangent, so the tangent of any angle between 180 degrees and 270 degrees is only positive, whereas the rest of them are negative. And the cosine of any angle that lies in the fourth quadrant will be positive, whereas the sine and the tangent will be negative. So let's look at this. We know that the cosine of 135 degrees, we can use our reference angle. So our reference angle is the cosine of 45 degrees. Now, is this the same? Is cosine 135 degrees the same or the negative of cosine 45 degrees? Well, let's look at it. A, S, T, C. Is cosine positive or negative in this quadrant? Well, it's negative because only sine is positive in this quadrant. So whatever the value of cosine 45 degrees is, we just have to take the negative of that. And from my other video, you should know that the cosine of 45 degrees is the square root of 2 over 2. Therefore, cosine 135 degrees is negative square root 2 over 2. Let's look at another example. The next question we're going to be looking at is the sine of 240 degrees. So the first thing we do is draw a line that is in our corresponding quadrant. And the line that's in this corresponding quadrant would be the third quadrant. It would be over here. This here is 240 degrees. The next thing we need to do is work out what is our reference angle with the x-axis. And so our reference angle will always be the acute angle. It will never be obtuse. And in this case, we can just do 240 degrees minus away 180 degrees. And that'll give us 60 degrees as our reference angle. So in other words, to work out the sine of 240 degrees, I'm simply going to be using the sine of 60 degrees. Okay, but I have to recognize now, is it the positive sine of 60 degrees or is it the negative sine of 60 degrees? Well, let's look at it. A, S, T, C. Is sine positive or negative in the third quadrant? Well, it's negative because only tangent is positive. So because tangent is positive in the third quadrant, we can say that the sine of 240 degrees is the same as negative sine 60 degrees. And sine of 60 degrees, if you have memorized it, is the same as square root 3 over 2. The next one we're going to be looking at, is the tangent of negative 300 degrees. What the hell is negative 300 degrees? Well, if you look at our unit circle, I said any angle that we measure on our unit circle is always starting from the positive x-axis, but going in an anti-clockwise direction like this. Well, if it's negative 300 degrees, right, because we have a negative here, we would go in a clockwise direction. That's all that means. So rather than going 300 degrees all the way around and ending up over here, okay, we're going to do it the other way. We're going to go in a clockwise direction. So in a clockwise direction, you'd go like this. 300 degrees is roughly here, and you would draw a line like this. Now, what is our reference angle? Our reference angle would be 60 degrees, because that is the angle that it makes with the positive x-axis. Now we need to recognize, because we have our reference angle, this is the same as tan of 60 degrees. Positive or negative though? Well, let's look at it. A, S, T, C. All of them are positive in the first quadrant. And because our angle lies in the first quadrant, we can simply say it's not negative, it's just the positive. It's the exact same thing. Therefore, tan of 60, for those of you who have memorized it, is the square root of 3. Next one we're going to look at. Next one we'll look at is the cosine of 5 pi on 4. And we're going to do some radian problems now. 5 pi on 4, which quadrant is that angle in? Well, if you're still stuck on how to convert between radians and degrees, 5 pi on 4 is the same as 225 degrees. So that would be in your fourth quadrant. Now, what is the reference angle that is made with the y-axis? Oh, sorry, with the x-axis. What is the reference angle that is made with the x-axis? Well, it's simply pi on 4 radians, or 45 degrees. Now, we can say that this is the same thing as the cosine of its reference angle, pi over 4. But what is that the same as? Is it negative or positive? We need to work that out. ASTC, add sugar to coffee. In this quadrant, in the third quadrant, only tangent is positive. So cosine will be negative. So this is the same as negative cos pi on 4, and negative cos pi on 4 is the same as negative root 2 over 2. Next one. What is the cos of 7 pi on 4? 7 pi on 4, that is the same as 315 degrees. And that would be in your fourth quadrant. That would be in your fourth quadrant. And your reference angle is simply, with the x-axis, it is pi on 4. So now we know that this is the same as cosine of the reference angle. But is it positive or negative? Well, ASTC, in the fourth quadrant, cosine is positive. Therefore, we can just say that the cosine of 7 pi on 4 is the same as the cosine of pi on 4. And the answer to that will simply be square root 2 over 2. Now let's have a look at some negative radian problems. Let's have a look at the tangent of negative 11 pi on 6. Negative 11 pi on 6, well, that's just the same thing as 330 degrees, or negative 330 degrees. So if we start from our x-axis, negative means we go in a clockwise direction. So we go clockwise all the way around 330 degrees. We will end up roughly over here with this line here. So this will be our angle negative 11 pi on 6. What is our reference angle with the x-axis? Pi on 6 radians. And so now we can relate tan of 11 pi, negative 11 pi on 6 with tan of pi on 6. And what is the relationship? Is it positive or is it negative? Well, we can see A, S, T, C. All of them, sine, cos, and tan, are positive in the first quadrant. Because our angle is in the first quadrant, we can just say it is the positive. Therefore, tan of negative 11 pi on 6 is the exact same as tan pi on 6, which is the same as square root 3 over 3. Keep going. We'll have one last one. We can do the sine of 5 pi on 3. So where is 5 pi on 3 in our unit circle? Which quadrant is that in? Well, I can recognize this will be simply in our fourth quadrant. In the fourth quadrant, we can see that it is over here roughly. 5 pi on 3 is the same as 300 degrees. So what is the reference angle with the x-axis? Well, it is 60 degrees or pi on 3 radians. So that means we can relate this with the sine of pi on 3. Next, what is it? Positive or negative? A, S, T, C. Well, cosine is the only one that is positive in the fourth quadrant. That means the sine will be negative. Therefore, the final answer is minus the sine of pi on 3. And the sine of pi on 3 is the square root of 3 over 2. And that is how you work out the sine, cosine, or tangent of any angle on your unit circle.